So welcome. I'll let David talk about his spot, but we first came here. I don't remember, about 6-7 years. I don't
Something like that.
lost track, but yeah. So now we haven't done any gardens yet on this trip. We've been doing all of our wetland stuff. So now we're starting to pivot to work on gardens. So for some of you, you guys have done gardening and all that kind of stuff and other related things. We got it under control. All the tasks we have for you will be. We got it under. You guys will be able to do it, no problemo. The main thing is, just so you guys know, before we get going, is one or both the vans might disappear for a little bit, so we need to go get plants for stuff for tomorrow. So after we do our orientation, after then you guys can grab your gloves and stuff, and then we'll have that with us, and we'll be charging. That's our logistics. As far as these guys, right? We've talked about what happened with the levee failures here. We talked about the depopulation and all that kind of stuff, and how important it is to try to rebuild community, right? You need a lot of things for community. So there's obviously the infrastructure and all that kind of stuff, but there's also all these things that we maybe don't think of as the very first things. Sometimes we think of the first things as being, safety and that kind of stuff, but having healthy food, having supportive communities, all that stuff is really, really important. And that's a thing that David is in particular has been working on, trying to help pull that ripcord on that engine, trying to help get that going and re-going. So with that, I'll turn it over to him and let him tell you what's been going on here and what he does.
All right. I'm David. Glad to meet you. Welcome.
Good to meet you.
And glad to have you here. And I came down from Indiana in 2009 to help rebuild as a full-time volunteer to help rebuild houses. And I was here long term and spent most of my weekends here in the Lower Ninth Ward, sitting on the porches talking to people, even though the leaders who were living in a group house on the other parish says, "Oh, don't go to Lower Ninth Ward, it's bad." Well, I came over here just because I felt called here and drawn here and never felt in danger. And ultimately, after doing some other back and forth volunteer work, ended up coming back here. I founded Capstone, and all the while still listening to the community, because what I initially thought would be building a house for homeless people, utilizing homeless with skills, teaching those without skills, ended up inadvertently discovering there was a greater need for food security. We're a food desert. 30% of our population is on poverty level in the Lower Ninth Ward. 30% doesn't have transportation. And our closest grocery stores are going to be Walmart, that way, about 3 miles, or a couple of bus transfers into the city at higher prices. Or you can go down to one of our many corner stores down here, find your way through all the alcohol and all the drugs hanging out, and buy $7 a gallon milk. Or if you find any fruit, you might pay $1 a piece for a banana. Or maybe you'll find some oranges that have rotten spots on them if you're lucky, that type of thing. I went around and actually made 6 stops one day just trying to find actual butter as opposed to margarine. And so that's kind of the brief story of around here. So we, through the years, have totally taken over and rehabbed a total of about 40 lots here in the Lower Ninth Ward, and we've gardened on them for a period of time, and many of them we've turned back over to the owners that are sometimes organizations, sometimes private owners. We've grown, at one point in time I counted like 52 different varieties of produce, and all of our produce we give away to people in need within the community. And the only thing we sell is our raw honey, and that's to help offset some of the expenses for the food we grow and share. We do aquaculture. I've got the largest system in the city back here. We're going to be doing some work on today. Since COVID had dried up volunteer resources and my own health issues had limited my availability, we haven't done a whole lot the last couple of years, but this year, as we're getting back into the flow of things, we're doing primarily aquaculture. And altogether, counting the ones that I have, I've worked on one in Haiti that we set up. I've worked on one in the Navajo Mission in New Mexico, and 2 others here in the city. And sad to say, out of all of those, mine's the only one that's been operating continuously now for 8 years, except we did crash when Ida came around because we didn't have any power for 9 days. And my solar backup system failed, and so the fish died because of lack of oxygen, because no water circulation, which in turn pollutes the plant grow beds. So we're now just getting those back up and running good. So we've got some planted, but we're gonna replace. We started with recycled hot tubs for our first 3 grow beds, and with Ida, it jostled them around enough that the old brittle plumbing in them just finally gave way. So we've got those removed, and we're going to build a few cement structures out of cement block, and we're going to do it the simple way. We're not going to get mortar and trowel. We're just going to use some landscape caulking in between the cat block.